everyone, welcome to So-Called Normal. I'm Mark Henick. Today on the show, we have my friend Mark Bowden, a body language expert, one of the leading body language experts in the world, which I find absolutely fascinating. His newest book with Tracy Thompson is Truth and Lies, What People Are Really Thinking, and really is in italics. So, yeah. so Mark is wonderful. He's such an engaging, dynamic guy, and I mentioned in the show at one point too that whenever I talk to body language people, or specifically him, I'm always self-conscious, hyper-conscious of my own body language, because I usually feel judged anyway. That's a whole social anxiety disorder thing. But when you're sitting across the table from somebody whose job it is to judge you, then it gets a little more, I get a little more self-conscious. Anyway, though, he couldn't have possibly been nicer. He's such a fascinating, interesting guy to talk to. So we get into a little bit about his body language expertise. We talk a bit about that and what brought him to do what he does. So I think you'll be as interested as I was. I really geeked out on this one. I had a lot of fun. So without further ado, here's my friend Mark Bowden on So-Called Normal.
Yeah, so I'm Mark Bowden. I'm a expert in human behavior and body language, which means most of my time I'm traveling all over the world, speaking to people, training them, helping them with how they use their body language to stand out, win trust, gain credibility, how they communicate themselves to others and their ideas through their nonverbal behavior.
Now, ever since we first met in 2013 at TED, I find every time I encounter you, I'm self-conscious of my behavior. Does that happen a lot, like my body language and all that stuff?
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
So you turn up at events or parties and so what do you do? Well, I'm an expert in body language. It's
like, then they uncross their arms.
Oh, no, I'm really self-conscious. And then I'm like, well, I'm not working right now. So
You're not always on. You take a day off every now and then.
Look, I mean, obviously our unconscious mind is always on for judging other people.
Yeah.
We're always judging other people. The moment anybody says to you, oh, no, I'm not judgmental, they're already lying.
Right.
Of course we're judgmental.
Right.
But we do it unconsciously. Now, to do it consciously, that actually takes a lot of effort and brain power. And so on the whole, you need to write me some form of check or hand me cash in order for me to consciously start looking at you and helping you or predicting what you're thinking or feeling and so forth.
Intuitively, are you able to tell, or say, the check is cashed and you're working, are you able to tell when it's an affectation, when somebody's practicing or doing, that they're aware of their body language versus it's just happening naturally?
Yeah. So for sure, there's a different rhythm to people when they're putting on behaviors, let's just say badly. They're not doing a good job of acting.
Right. Yeah.
Because of course,
and that's what it is, really. It's
absolutely.
Acting. Yeah.
Well, acting, action, to put on action.
Right.
And we're all putting on action on purpose all the time, either consciously or unconsciously. Our brain is deciding what we do in order to get us an advantage in life. Now, some of us, when we're consciously acting the behaviors for a certain outcome, some of us are not so good at it, not so practiced at it. We could get better at it. And some of us are really good. I mean, for example, we're all of us going to be good liars.
Right.
Else, how would we get on in life?
Right.
Lying and telling the truth, they're two of our most important social skills.
Interesting. So in the mental health space, where I spend a lot of my time, I like to tell people that you learn how to become either a very good liar or a very good actor, if there's any difference.
Right.
And I'm not sure that there is.
Yeah.
But part of that means that when you're feeling really shitty inside, you try to act happy. You try to act in a way that I think the reason is that part of it is that you don't want to throw a pity party. You don't want people,
Absolutely.
But you can almost always tell, right? When there's something happening behind the scenes.
So I think we're all going to be able to tell to a lesser or greater extent when somebody is not feeling well around us in all kinds of ways. And when we ask them, hey, how are you doing? That they will probably be a good liar.
right.
as you're saying. We might be able to pick up something. But here's the interesting thing. It takes two people to lie, one to deliver it and one to accept it.
Right.
Now, so if you come to me and I go, hey, how are you doing, Mark? And you go, yeah, I'm doing fine at the moment. And I pick up this sense of, I don't know whether he's doing fine. I picked up something. But I go, oh, okay, good.
Right.
I just accepted that lie. So I think it takes a certain person to be able to not accept what feels like a lie. And go, are you sure?
Yeah, and what do you think motivates that, both the lie and the accepting of the lie?
Oh, well, getting on, being social. If I ask you, look, asking how somebody's doing, that's what we call a phatic question, in that it's customary for me to go, hey, Mark, how you doing? Right. And it's customary for you to go, I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
Just a script.
It's just a script. And if you deviate from that, then you've kind of said, I don't know the usual social way of doing this part of the conversation.
Right.
Okay? So we kind of both join in that phatic piece of communication, and we don't go, hang on, let's not do this bit.
Right.
Let me truly ask how you're doing. Truly tell me, or I'm not going to accept that. I'm okay, thanks. How are you?
Yeah.
Because I'm getting the sense that maybe there's something up, and I'm going to go, oh, tell me more about that.
Right.
Tell me more about how good you're doing.
I'm reminded of this idea of breaking of the script. I saw this joke, and I'll paraphrase it because I'm terrible at reciting jokes, but it was something to the effect of, why did the surrealist cross the road?
I don't know. Why did the surrealist cross the road?
Porcupine.
Yeah, like
it's something that's completely unexpected, right?
Yeah.
That breaks you out of that usual script. But what is it that people are responding to, you think? Cognitively, everybody's following the rules, right? But something inside you have this gut feeling, something's not right here. What is that?
Oh, so in terms of somebody not being well, it could be all kinds of things. So let me just give you a few examples. You might say, hey, Mark, I'm fine, but I see that you're concave in your belly area. It's like your belly is tucked in and your chest is kind of hunched over, that you're protecting this, belly area. That may give me the sense of, gosh, he's trying to move this vulnerable area away from me right now. Maybe you hunch your shoulders up to your neck and you tuck your chin in. And that shows what you're actually trying to do there is protect the carotid arteries and windpipe.
Interesting. You're feeling vulnerable.
You're feeling vulnerable, and so you're protecting those areas. And I think to myself, but hang on, Mark knows me. He knows that I'm okay. Why is he protecting himself right now? And so that might give me an odd feeling.
Right.
I might not be able to go, oh, I know, I see what body language is happening there. It's that's giving me the odd feeling. I just get the feeling.
Right.
I just get the odd feeling. But then when I get that odd feeling, do I accept your potential lie of I'm okay? Thanks very much. How are you? Or do I start going, no, I'm going to dig into this more, question this more? Well, you see, what happens then is we're doing in what I'd call in my world interview and interrogation. Now, how social is that?
Right.
For me to go, you know what, Mark? I'm not accepting your
Right.
I'm okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me more about I'm okay.
How well does that usually work?
Yeah, exactly. Well, now I've broken
Right.
a bit of a social rule
Right.
there. So I think it's tricky. It's really tricky for people who maybe aren't feeling right on top of it. And it's tricky for people who are with the person who's not feeling on top of it. I think there's another thing about behavior as well, where our instinct, our unconscious mind feels like all illness is catching. All illness is contagious.
Right.
And if you're coming to me with this kind of ill feeling, then part of my instinct goes, well, I don't want to catch that. Let's keep to the social stuff and let's get out of this situation as quickly as possible.
Well, and part of it's context and location, I would imagine, too. If this is in the kitchen at your work or in your office or something, probably a little less open, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, how do I even get into the conversation?
Right. Or if you have you're going to a meeting or you have a phone call or you're just not there, know?
Right. I got all of the rest of my life going on.
Right.
So, I think what it comes down to for me, it's very easy for me to accept the lies.
Right.
Because it's just easier. It's easier for me not to accept or know or understand that you might not be, in the best shape right now.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit about both the body of the person who is dealing with something. Mm-hmm. What are we looking for? But then also the person who's asking, because I would think that their body language would play an important role in drawing that out, right? So
sure. Let's
start with the person who's having a hard time. Mm-hmm. What are we looking for there? You mentioned that protecting areas of vulnerability.
Yeah. So minimization, taking up now all of this needs baselining, because you might be somebody who minimizes, takes up a little space generally. Right. So in detecting body language, we're looking for differences
from their baseline.
From their baseline, from their norms.
So there's this idea in psychology of state versus trait. Is this a mood that they're in, or is this a trait of how they usually are?
Absolutely. I would that's exactly what I'm talking about. So we've got traits of behavior and then states.
Right.
And then we may have states that carry on a long time, right. And they're very different from how you remember that person.
Interesting.
And now in the world of clinical world, we might call that, it's starting to look like an affective disorder now.
Right.
Because I'm going, hang on, this has been going on a while. This isn't just a mood. So emotions can last moments.
Right.
You can't be angry for that long.
Right.
Okay.
So you get cut off in traffic and you flip the guy off, and then
usually
usually you move on.
Just your body can't cope with that emotional levels, high emotional levels for that long.
Yeah.
Then there's moods, and they can go on a lot longer, hours, days, even. But when they prolong further than that, then we might start to go, hang on, there's really something up here. So again, what we're looking for in the body is difference. Now, what might those differences be? Well, I might think to myself, hey, this person, she used to really maximize the space that she was taking up. I see her as often taking up a lot more space. And now I've noticed over time, over the last few days or the last weeks or so, she's taking up a lot less space. Now, what does that tell me? It doesn't tell me anything in that I go, well, that's notable. I wonder about that. So then maybe I ask, hey, how are you doing? And of course, what's the expected answer?
Fine.
I'm doing fine.
Yeah, fine, thanks.
Okay, so now I'm looking for, did anything else happen on that question?
Right.
Did I see anything in the face?
So you're looking for maybe a tell, a lie?
A little tell. Now again, finding deceit with good liars is really hard to do.
Sure. Often though, I find that people who say, I'm fine and they're guarding, they're not typically very good liars. They want somebody to dig deeper.
Well,
right?
that's true. So I think, how do you be somebody who people will talk to more?
Right.
And maybe let their guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's easier. That's easier to do.
Okay.
Which is just open body language. As much open body language as you can really do.
Sure. So uncrossing your arms, legs.
Yeah. So if I cross my arms in front of you right now and I look you in the eye and I go, hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Right.
What's your feeling around answering me now?
I feel interrogated. Right? Yeah.
Right. So you're already.
I feel my body closed down.
Oh,
right?
okay. So you mirror me.
Right.
If you don't necessarily do it, actually physically in front of me, but internally, you mirror my behaviors, and your brain goes, well, how would I be if I were like that? Yeah. And then you project that back on me. Now, if you're in a certain state of mind, if you're in a very negative state of mind, and I cross my arms and you put yourself in that very negative state of mind, am I open now to hearing what you have to say, or am I closed? Will I be judgmental or will I be non-judgmental if I'm crossing my arms? What would your assessment be? And put yourself in that negative state of mind.
Well, you're judging me. You're watching everything I'm doing. You're not going to respond favorably. I'm predicting what you're going to say.
Right. But there was me with really good intentions
sure.
of talking to you, but just by... So now, If I uncross and I'm doing open palm gestures at exactly navel height as I'm talking to you right now,
the truth plane,
as I call it, and I just gently say, Mark, how you doing right now?
Yeah, and I feel it in my body too, without even it's not even a cognitive thing. It's strange.
Right.
It changes the space between us.
Right, and now put yourself in that negative state of mind.
Yeah.
And here I am asking you how you're doing. Now, what's your feeling about talking to me about how you're doing?
If you look open and I feel closed and negative, well, it's almost too personal. It's maybe I don't. What's this guy up to?
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So maybe this is a bit too strong, a bit too.
Right.
So now what I'm going to do.
Well, and I will say it's because if I were in a negative headspace, that's what I would think.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. So I'm trying to for you to enter that negative headspace, just because we're talking here about how we talk to people who may well be in a very negative state right now. So now all I'm going to do is just keep open, but I'm going to keep stiller.
Right.
Okay, I'm just going to keep stiller. I'm still very, very open. I'm going to keep stiller. And now I'm going to ask you, Mark, how are you doing right now?
I like the other one better by comparison.
Okay.
No, I'm throwing you some curveballs here. I know.
That's okay.
But this is really interesting because you never see, the side by side here.
Yeah.
That when you do it that way, it feels less. I feel less interested. I'm disinterested. But if I reflect back on what you just did, sure, I felt like you were coming at me very openly, and I wasn't feeling very open. But I almost needed that little bit of pressure, right?
Right. Okay. Because look, we're dealing here with the idea of somebody who is in a negative state.
Right.
So we're not working with somebody who's biased towards talking to us in an open way right now.
Yeah.
So I have to do my part on going, what's my best body language, my best chance of getting that person to open up? And I would say it's gentle open palm gestures at exactly navel height is going to give me my best chance in a potentially negative situation.
And I think what the difference for me between either of the softer version or the more assertive, more open version, I think it depends on the type of negative space that I'm in. Right. If I'm really pissed off about something, which often my depression manifests as irritation, as it does in many men, especially, or if I'm really down and sad. If I was really down and sad, I almost feel like the more assertive is really what I need, something a little bit cheerier. If I'm a bit pissed off, that might just piss me off more, and I need something a bit softer, So I think then it depends too on that very subtle distinction between what kind of bad mood is this person in, right?
Right. So we could get really subtle about that to help the subtlety of that. But what I'm trying to move us away from is, when I feel you might be closed and negative, and open, I'm more likely to mirror you and get closed and negative myself. So what I'm going to do is just cross my legs over here and just cross my arms over, and I'm bringing my hand up to my face and kind of covering half of my mouth. So I'm a little bit more protected around you in this, imaginary negative state that you're in. Yeah. And now I am trying to be really caring and open. Yeah. And now I ask you, hey, Mark, how you doing right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. It doesn't feel as open.
It doesn't feel as open.
No,
So my guess is, because you're going, I don't know, is it's hard now to predict me for being open or closed to you or a good person to be around. So my guess is you're defaulting to more I don't know, and let's not gamble.
Right.
Let's not gamble
the safe.
Being open and talking to Mark.
I learned, speaking of this sense of confusion or unexpectedness, I think, in some ways, that I think I learned it from one of your videos, and you put out these little short videos online around the handshake, the top, or turning the handshake. I think I got that from you.
That's right.
So that their hand is on top of yours, giving them a sense of dominance, right?
Yeah.
I've tested that out with so many people. Almost without fail, 80% of the time, shake the hand, and just a very small turn so that mine is underneath, theirs is on top. They'll look down at the hand. No, I don't know if I'm doing it too fast, too aggressively, if I'm I don't think I am, but it's almost like it's this. They didn't expect that to come, right? So it was an interesting interaction.
Yeah, so often it's what we call a pattern interrupt for people. They're not used to a handshake exactly like that.
Right.
I mean, the thing to look at is what happens in their face. Does there seem to be a state of optimism in there, or pessimism, or do they seem neutral about this? Because what that upper handshake is trying to do, and again, what you're suggesting there is what happens when I do it is I put out my hand to make sure mine will be slightly underneath there. So I'm putting it in at about a kind of a 45-degree angle. I'm not kind of going in, shaking hands at north and south, and then twisting
giving them a twist. Maybe that's my problem.
Getting their hand over. I'm already going in at a 45-degree angle. Sure. And what I notice is they smile, and often they'll take a little step forward.
Interesting.
As well.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get them to do the approach response by giving them an environment where they have power.
Right.
They have, and certainly they have an advantage over me.
Yeah, or at least they perceive that.
They perceive that, right. Yeah. I mean,
even though you're the one who's manipulating their behavior.
I've manipulated an advantage for them.
Yeah.
Well, and why would I do that? Because I know people have to be influenced and persuaded.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll just carry on what they've always been doing, which could be fine. But if I or others, or they even perceive that it would be best if their behavior changed in some way, be better for them, better for others, then I'll manipulate the situation in order to get that for them. In
the world of learning and child development, there's this idea of the zone of proximal development, which is basically that if you're wherever you are in terms of what you currently know, where you currently are, it's bracketed by a relatively small zone of what you're willing to tolerate in order to move, right? Mm-hmm. So if, for example, I know 50% of what there is to know about something, in order for me to learn, I can't learn about the stuff way at the other end of the expert because I'll just either shut down or won't understand it or I'll feel defeated by it. But I can learn something that's a little bit above what I currently know, and then we work up from there.
Sure.
So it seems like why I thought of this as you were speaking was that if your behavior is so incongruent with the person that you're mirroring or that you're trying to drag ahead or drag in either direction, that's probably going to have the opposite effect, right? But if you're just a little bit more open if they're closed, or if you're a little bit more reserved if they're hyper aroused, then that's more likely to drag them in that direction, right?
Absolutely. I would say that's true, and we've all probably noticed that if we take this idea again of being in this kind of imaginary, low state, down state, negative state, does it help when somebody comes in with super high positive energy?
Right. But yeah, if you're in a really pissy mood, your cat is sick, and you're,
And they've got the best intentions of shifting you from your state by giving you almost the opposite polarity to that.
Right.
And does that ever help? Well, maybe it feels like you're being dragged along.
Right.
And maybe, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but if I were gambling on that one, I would gamble it maybe pushes me further into my polarity.
I see this with I'm fascinated by, ever since I was a little kid, I've been fascinated by televangelists, like hyper-motivational speakers.
I love them as well.
The Tony Robbins types.
Yeah.
Well, not because I like what's being said, but because I find it a fascinating case study.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And it seems to, televangelists being an example, it seems to quote-unquote work for people who go up and have these faith healings and they fall back and hallelujah, they're better.
Yeah.
Whether or not the science actually supports that is another question. But they come there with a certain expectation, a certain trust, right? They're small, they're downtrodden, they're feeling depressed or whatever it is, and they're watching this really charismatic person, usually a man often, with these great big eccentric movements and so you would think that'd be totally out of sync with one another, but it seems to work for a lot of people. And is it because that's what they're expecting?
Well, here's the thing. We've got to put it in the social context here is that person is not there alone with the evangelist.
Oh, interesting. So the whole group.
Huge crowd there.
Yeah. So how does group behavior impact that?
Well, I mean, have you ever been to a football match? Have you ever been? I mean, when in groups, we give up our our identity,
Right.
our personality.
Like the wave in the stadium.
Absolutely. It's like I'm part of the Mexican wave.
Right.
I'm not an individual anymore. And how much often is our own feelings attached to our individuality? Well, I'm depressed. Yeah?
Right. Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's attached to us. And in a group, we definitely lose this sense of I.
Yeah.
And within that, we could, because we've attached our feelings to us, we could, for those moments, lose those feelings.
Yeah. Do you think that this could be one reason why it seems, you take Tony Robbins as an example, when people watch a video of him doing his thing, it's not nearly as impactful than if you're actually in a stadium of 15,000 people participating.
Well, a great example of that is go and watch a theatre show on video and realize you don't laugh as much. It's not as funny. It's not as good.
Yeah.
Here's a great example is watch Charlie Chaplin on the TV. It's not that funny.
Right.
Then go to a cinema and watch it there, a big old cinema, like 1,000-seater cinema, and watch Charlie Chaplin. It's incredibly funny. Why? Because everybody's laughing.
Right.
Because you lose your identity and you identify with the little guy, with Charlie.
Right.
You suddenly identify on a mass level with another individual, and you lose your feelings.
Yeah.
Your feelings for those moments, and you get his feelings.
Right.
And we as a group experience something. We know people are more violent as a group.
Right.
We'll lose that idea of morality and go, well, no, we were right to be violent towards that individual.
Right.
We were right. We were all doing it.
Yeah, so not me. It's not my fault.
Not me. I wasn't there.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Is that a safety thing that it lets us just let go of ourselves?
Well, there's a massive advantage to being social mammals.
Sure.
Huge advantage. I mean, you with your best idea, I will beat it with a bad idea and a bunch of mates.
Right.
Me and my friends, if I can communicate to a group, all of us getting my bad idea done will beat your good idea. Now, I know that's not true for every idea.
But speaking of America, speaking of Trump in particular, I think, because this isn't just a non sequitur or a bad segue. Yeah. You've talked and have analyzed Donald Trump's body language for media outlets. What would you say is his... I don't know if this is a thing or not. Do people have a body language personality? Do they have like a typology in terms of how they usually use their body?
Yes. I mean, as an individual, you'll have idiosyncrasies that might be quite personal.
Right. But even taken as a whole, I mean, Donald Trump in particular seems to use the same gestures a lot.
So he's doing that on purpose.
Okay.
There's some very purposeful nonverbal communication that he's using.
So what are some of those things that he's
using? Oh, well, I mean, there's archetypical stuff of his type of leadership. For example, the pushing out of the chin.
Right.
Yeah. So the chin, one of the products of testosterone is that it grows bones, and it will specifically grow bones in the chest area, the shoulder area, to allow more space for muscles and upper body strength. And it'll also grow the jawbone area and give you a prominent jawbone. Therefore, to display to the other social mammals that you don't see a lot of risk in the world, which is part of testosterone, is when you have a lot of testosterone, you get bigger in the chest area, get bigger in the jaw area, and you don't see so much risk. Therefore, you are potentially more aggressive. Yeah, but the aggression is a byproduct of not seeing risk.
Right.
How would you display that to people? Show them your jaw.
Right.
Yeah. Now you'll see that on coinage across centuries. The aggressive nationalist leader.
Right.
So we see it in Mussolini, for example, images of Mussolini, the jaw sticking out, and in fact, it goes into profile. Right. So you'll see Trump do that.
And it's almost a taunt.
It's a taunt. Like, look at that jawbone. Hit that.
Yeah.
Churchill.
Yeah.
would do the same. In fact, you see images of Churchill where he's pushed his chest and belly right out to say, look, hit me here. It won't hurt.
Huh. Yeah. While he sits in his chair or whatever, having his profile taken for the coin or the picture.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Perfectly safe to do so.
So that big-jawed profile is something you often see in images of dictatorship.
Yeah.
Not that I'm suggesting that Trump is a dictator.
Sure.
However, it would be fair to say he's nationalistic.
Sure. Well, I mean, he's admitted that in those words that he's a nationalist. So you're seeing him with these hypermasculine kind of behaviors for what end? To intimidate enemies, to make himself feel strong? What's going on there?
Yeah, so we see throughout nationalistic iconography, and it's not necessarily male, because in the UK we have the image of Boadicea, the leader of the Iceni, who decimated the Romans, and so you'll see her turned into the image of Britannia. You'll see the Queen of England displaying those Britannia images. You'd have seen Margaret Thatcher displaying those Britannia images, the strong, aggressive female.
Right.
So that iconography is across male and female, for sure. So we see Trump with those kind of big images taking up space as iconography of nationalism.
Right. Now, I mean, a big part of that is what I think of all of this, especially the group behavior, is what's expected of us in certain contexts, or what we feel is expected of us, and in those contexts, maybe expecting or feeling like it's expected of you to be a strong leader, because maybe that's what got you elected, or whatever else. So, how much of that? How much of our body language, we've heard a lot about this over the last few years, impacts how we actually feel about ourselves? I mean, we've heard about power posing and all this kind of stuff. Is there anything to that?
Yeah, I think there absolutely is. And my understanding would be, we've known this for thousands and thousands of years, that the way that you create your environment around you affects how you feel.
Sure.
And one of the things that you can change and have great agency over is the positioning of your body.
Even if you don't feel like it. Right?
Even if you don't feel like it. So it's that fake it till you make it idea, which some people are totally against, because it involves the word fake.
Right. And they for some reason they think it's not authentic.
Fake is negative,
right?
And inauthenticity is negative. It's a value judgment that's put on the idea of fake and inauthentic, which doesn't stand true for many, many other things in life. Picasso would walk around his artworks and say, fake and Picasso and fake and Picasso, and would call some, which he knew to be painted by somebody else, Picasso.
Interesting.
And his agent would go, hang on though, we know that you didn't paint that. And he said, yeah, I didn't paint it, but it's still Picasso. And he'd point at others which he had painted and go fake. And his agent would go, no, you gave that one to that. But that's not a Picasso.
Right.
I painted it, but it's not a Picasso. So yes, you can fake it until you make it. We've known this for thousands of years. Yes, there was Amy Cuddy's work on power poses. The science doesn't quite ring right at the moment.
Right. Well, and that's why I asked, because there's been some questions, mostly from a statistics kind of perspective. Right?
Yeah. So accused of what we call p-hacking, which doesn't mean that it's not true.
Right.
It's just not scientifically valid. Now.
Right.
But that doesn't mean something isn't true.
Right.
My guess is that everybody listening to this knows that they've experienced changing their body and it giving them a different feeling.
Right.
Now, just because one piece of science didn't prove the exact neurotransmitter involved, that's what Cuddy's science was doing.
Right.
What the science did was say, we think this is about a couple of specific neurotransmitters. We've done the science. It's true. It is about these two neurotransmitters. That then turns out to be not scientifically valid. Well, does it mean that the effect doesn't happen anymore?
Right.
Well, of course, because we all know.
Yeah, it might just not have anything to do with those
two. I mean,
things,
it most likely does. It's just not scientifically valid that it does.
Well, and there's
right
also
now.
this idea, too. I was just reading this about something else the other day that it might not be anything at all to do with one particular piece, but when taken all together, the movement, and that's what you're feeling, right?
For sure. So I would say, yes, we've known for thousands of years that if you change your environment, you change your feelings.
Right.
And from my point of view, one of the pieces of the environment that you have a lot of ability to change is exactly what your arms and legs are doing.
Right.
And your torso is doing. Now, the face is much harder. That's why when somebody says, hey, just put on a smile,
Right.
you go, yeah, like that'll work. It's really hard to put on a smile. They're small muscles of a group of about 50 in the face, give or take a few, depending on how you want to classify them.
Yeah.
They're hard to move consciously.
Right. And what I would imagine that gross body movements would have a bigger impact anyway.
Massively bigger impact.
But also, too, what part does it play where, expressions, for example, if you're actually happy, your whole face will change, your whole body will change.
Right.
If you're faking happy, you might smile because that's the idea that you have of, smiling means happiness.
Right.
But there's nothing going on in your eyes, in your head, or anywhere else.
Yeah,
right?
sure. So look, I can do these open palm gestures at navel height for you, which is open body language, and I can do that. And I'm just going to give myself a very neutral face right now, okay?
Right. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm going to add what we call a Duchenne smile to it. So this is a true smile. Now this feels good to me, but it's a lot harder work to do this Duchenne smile, okay? Right. Now I'm going to keep the Duchenne smile, and I'm now going to minimize the amount of...
Oh, that one's creepy.
Yeah. So I'm now minimizing the amount of body and I'm going to tell you, you know what, Mark, I feel fine right now. Yeah, and you can see that your instinct is looking at the minimized body and going, Mark, you do not, I see the smile, but you do not... feel fine.
Yeah.
If I just do that open body language and have a neutral face and go, Mark, I feel fine right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably feels, and when I said that, I felt honest about feeling fine.
Yeah.
Now I can smile and go, Mark, I feel fine right now. And actually my brain goes, but it's really hard work trying to smile.
Sure. Well,
whereas moving these arms in this way, it's easy for me.
It's easy and it's natural. And it's like there's something in I can't even say that I'm thinking about it because I'm not, but there's just something doesn't feel right when I analyze you in front of me and there's something that doesn't match. Right. It doesn't go
So
together.
when there's incongruity, when something doesn't match, you always default to negatives. You don't go, oh, Mark is incongruent at the moment. That's good news.
That makes me happy.
That makes me happy. I bet he's feeling good.
Right.
You go, hang on, something doesn't make sense right now. Let's not be optimistic about Mark. Now, you're not doing that for me, by the way. You're doing it for you.
Sure.
You're doing it for your safety. The moment you see incongruity, your brain goes, well, this is less predictable. And so let's not hang out with Mark for too long.
You just analyzed the hell out of me in a very short sentence. Well, because you're right. That idea of needing to predict what's happening next, for me personally, is important. Right.
Well, I think, just understand, from my point of view, you are not unique in this.
Right.
Every human being on the planet is trying to predict the next moment and the next moment and the next moment for their safety, for their optimism, for their benefit and risk.
Right.
And I would suggest when we stop being able to predict the future in a way that we can trust, in a way that feels like, I think I've got this.
Yeah.
I think my prediction is going to be pretty accurate. We get very worried. We get anxious.
Sure. To what degree do you have to have faith, hope, trust, risk tolerance, whatever you call it, that when you're feeling so crappy you can't drag yourself out of bed in the morning because you're afraid of what you're going to face during the day, to be able to do that anyway?
Yeah,
right?
Oh gosh, that's really hard.
Right.
That's really hard because you're playing against feelings here.
Yeah.
And those feelings are all pervasive. It's rather like, being a smoker and quitting.
Right.
And then going, and the feelings the craving doesn't exist anymore. Of course it exists.
Yeah, sure.
So you've absolutely got to trust the process of going, I'm going to get my body moving. I'm going to get myself out of bed. I'm going to get my body moving, and I'm going to make movements that I hope will make me feel better.
Well, it's probably not going to make you feel worse.
It'll probably won't make you feel, it'll be effort.
Sure.
For sure. You'll go, damn, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like... And we all at some point just have to drag ourselves out feeling terrible, making it worse by trying really hard to make it feel better. But here's the one thing that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to say, hey, Mark, you should feel better.
Ah, yes.
Come on. Snap out of it.
Yeah.
I know, just think good thoughts.
Right.
No. Like your instinct, your gut instinct is going, the world is terrible right now.
Yeah.
This is awful right now. Trying to think yourself out of it. Certainly it's never worked for me.
It's never worked for me, that's for sure.
It's never worked for me.
Yeah.
And in fact, people saying to me, hey, just think, more positive.
Yeah, think good thoughts.
It's like,
think rainbows and daisies.
Yeah, you are not in my world at all right now.
So a big part of it then is that framing or reframing as need be, that you're not going into it saying, I'm doing this because I feel great. You're doing this because you want to feel great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm admitting I feel bad.
Yeah. You're
I
owning
feel
that.
awful. Yeah, I feel terrible. I don't want to do this. I don't want that. This is bad. This is awful. I'm not going, come on, snap out of it.
Right.
You feel great. No, I don't.
Right. Yeah,
feel
so
terrible.
Accepting that you feel terrible and doing it anyway. Rather than doing it and lying to yourself about why you're doing it.
Right. Because my take on it would be is the bad feeling is coming from somewhere pretty deep.
Yeah.
And your intelligence will not get you out of it.
Right.
Because it's your intelligence.
I haven't been able to think my way out of depression yet.
No.
It turns out.
Exactly. and it's a ridiculous thing, isn't it, really? Because you kind of think that the depression comes from thoughts in your head.
Right.
But from my experience, it comes from somewhere much deeper than that, than thoughts in your head.
Well, and I think it's partly, too, the story that you tell yourself about the thoughts and the experiences, right?
For sure.
You change that narrative in many ways. You change that framing, and it changes everything.
Right. And I think it's very hard to change the story. It's not impossible. I mean, many of us have done it. We've gone to visit people. We've talked through these things. Yeah. And sometimes the story changes, but that's really hard, long work.
Right.
And so sometimes what might look to others like a really superficial quick fix can actually work really well, which is I'm just going to put on the body of something on purpose, knowing I'm doing that on purpose.
Right.
Not trying to con other people, not trying to make out to other people that I feel good, trying to put on the body of optimism, of taking up space, rather than living in that body of being crunched up, taking up less space, concave.
To go too Freudian on it, back to the womb, back to
that comfort.
Small.
Back to that comfort. No, to take up a bit of space on purpose, to be open on purpose.
Right. To live out loud, recover out loud.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Give it a go. Give it a go and see what happens. One
of my favorite pieces of advice that I heard, I'm sure others have said it, but I heard it from Simon Sinek, that when, one of the most common fears, I think according to most studies, is public speaking. But in your body, fear and excitement feel very similar. The palpitation, the sweat, the breathing, whatever. So almost every time that I go on stage now, and I'm fortunate to get to do that a lot, is that I tell myself, because I still get nervous sometimes, and I hope that I always do, because it's an opportunity to tell myself this thing that you're feeling isn't fear, it's excitement.
Sure.
And that measurably changes my performance, because I'm going out there with that new frame of mind that my heart's beating really fast because I'm excited and I love doing this and this is great, and then I perform better. Right? So are there other ways that you can reinterpret these things that you're feeling or use it to your advantage, these things that you're feeling?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm the same. Just like you, I do a lot of speaking to get this message across. And I get anxiety for sure. I wake up in the morning literally going, you idiot.
Really?
Why have you gotten yourself into this situation again? There's going to be 3,000 people out there who you don't know.
And I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I've said that.
Are you sure? And then you
talk about the same thing every time. I don't know what I'm going to talk about.
And then you get imposter syndrome, which is like, oh no, they're going to find you out. They're going to find out you know nothing about this. And of course, my intellect goes, well, hang on, you've written 4 books on this. Like you've been, voted by your peers #1 expert in your area.
Not many people know more about this than you do.
You've thought about this more than anybody else. Oh no, they'll find out. They'll find out you know nothing.
Have you had experiences with, clinically speaking, with anxiety and depression?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, it definitely is that area of not knowing, not being able to predict.
Right.
That sense of I don't have any control here.
Was control? I'm sorry if I'm going to psychoanalytic with you on this part, but did you have a lot of control when you were a young man, when you were a kid?
No. So possibly in some areas, but certainly. So although I've written 4 books, I'm dyslexic.
Oh, really?
So as a kid, my reading and writing, especially my writing, was just not readable. And so what I experienced from school was being called lazy and stupid, and hopefully that happens to a lot less dyslexic now.
I'm not sure.
Now, but hopefully,
kids struggle with
certainly some of us are trying to make sure that happens less. But certainly that was my experience. I was everything that I expressed through writing could not be read and was mocked.
Right.
So I felt very little control. Around that.
So you have difficulty with reading and writing, and then you go out and, as a response to that, write 4 books.
That showed him.
Kind of really kind of a glutton for punishment, right?
Yeah.
But now, do you find that helped technically with the dyslexia, or did it help with your confidence about the dyslexia? Writing the books.
No, it doesn't. None of it helps because it's just not. It can't be helped.
Sure. Yeah.
There's nothing.
You can't help the way that your brain.
No,
works,
there's nothing that can be done
about
it. And I think the most helpful thing for me is understanding that's the way it is.
Right.
And being able to manage the rest of the world around you. Many people who think, well, you could get better at this. Right. So, for example, my dyslexia shows up as well that I can't tell left or right.
Okay.
And so the moment I say to people, so by the way, I don't do left and right, you'll just have to point.
Right.
Yeah. They do this thing, which is they're doing these two and I think they're trying to show these L shapes to me in their hands because they've got a fix for me. Suddenly they've gone, whoa,
right.
Mark hasn't learnt the thing where you hold up your hands in an L shape to be able to know left and right.
Right.
And I have to go, I know about that. Those two things are the same to me.
Right.
They're exactly the same. That doesn't help. So people are trying to be really, really helpful.
Right. But they're trying to be helpful from their own
non-dyslexic brain, which can do left and right, and mine just can't. So I get lost.
Sure.
I take directions continually from people. I'll go, how'd you get here? And they'll go, turn left, and I know I'm going to the wrong place. So I ask somebody else, and I get to some great places. I mean, I'll end up at a meeting, and I'll go, God, I ended up here, and they go, how did you get over there?
Yeah.
And
is that how you ended up on that? Was it a football field at one point, naked, streaking?
Yeah.
So can you tell us about that story? That might be a good place to.
Yeah. So if listeners look up Nike streaker, you'll find me. You'll find me streaking across a full, game with a crowd of many thousands of people.
Where was this?
This was at Millwall Football Club.
Okay.
A very rough club. Very rough. You want to streak?
Soon found out.
You should not do it at Millwall, my friend. They're a rough old bunch.
So what inspired this?
Well, so Nike came to me, and they knew of the work that I did in nonverbal, and they wanted. So this was for the Super Bowl ad, Nike Super Bowl ad. I think I'm going to say 97. Maybe it was later than that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And they wanted a streaker who could totally embody the idea of freedom.
Wow. And they thought of you?
And they said, would you be in for doing this?
Yeah,
and so
nice.
we talked about this and so that's me. Now, it was filmed over 4 days. It's not a real football
So wait,
match.
Were there a lot of walks or a very slow walk?
It was running. It was running for 4 days.
Wow.
It's football pitches are big. It's a big run.
Sure.
It's a big run to
take a break
do
in
4 days
between.
of that. Well, sometimes I would take. I had my own masseuse who would they'd get me off the pitch and then get my legs back into shape and then get me running again.
Yeah, I didn't look closely enough to notice if you were fitter by the end of the run than you were at the beginning.
Well, listen. By the end of 4 days, I remember coming back home and basically going into shock.
Sure.
It was so cold.
Yeah,
It was so cold. and I'm wearing nothing but some Nike trainers and a scarf. Believe me, I did it properly.
Yeah.
And that, that's quite a thing, to go on in front of thousands of people naked for 4 days. That's quite damaging.
Sure.
That's quite, you once you've done that,
you can do anything.
You can probably do most stuff.
I'll just jump in.
I'm still not going to jump out of a plane even with a parachute. I'm not going to do that.
Not even if Nike asks you to do it naked.
No. Depends how much they were paying, I guess. Yeah. Depends how much they were paying. Yeah. Everybody has their price.
Mark, thank you so much for coming in and having this conversation with me. It's been fun.
My great pleasure, Mark. Thanks very much for having me.
All right, that's my chat with Mark Bowden. Wasn't that interesting? Wait, I just sounded like such a Cape Bretoner there. I don't know if you heard that. But every now and then, my Cape Breton, my maritime accent comes out. And I don't hide it as much as I used to, but there it did. So if you ever hear me say wit instead of with, anyway. Okay, Mark Bowden, he was great. I like talking to Mark Bowden a lot. He's a really fun guy to be around, and his own body language is very welcoming and engaging. So check his stuff out. His book, Truth and Lies, is available everywhere now. His TEDx Toronto talk, that's where we met, is worth checking out as well. And he's all over social media too. So look up his work. It's wonderful. Head over to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the show, please. Leave us a rating, a really good rating if you like. You can leave a bad rating if you want, but please don't. Please leave a good rating and let us know what you think in the comments as well. That stuff really means a lot. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever other social platforms you use. I'm at Mark Henick, at MarkHenick. What else do we got here? If you want to try out some free psychotherapy, a free trial of safe, online, effective psychotherapy with screened, trained mental health clinicians across Canada and the United States, go to BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/Mark. Enter the promo code Mark, M-A-R-K. And you'll get a free trial of some safe, online, effective psychotherapy. If you like it, great, continue with it. It's cheaper to do it online by video or audio than it is often to see somebody in person. It's certainly more convenient. So if that's your thing, check that out. If not, then whatever. At least you tried, right? So go to betterhelp.com/Mark. Enter the promo code M-A-R-K, Mark, that's me, for a free trial of safe, online, effective therapy. Have I said that enough times? I think I have. All right, thanks for listening to the show. Tune in next week, Monday. We're every Monday. This is So-Called Normal.